This discussion will be about sampling methods. So when you're creating a survey and collecting some data, you need to make sure you collect it in a correct way so that you don't have any bias or that your data is not going to be skewed. So when you're creating a survey, first you have to identify what's my population. That's the entire group to be studied. You could say you want to know some information about your entire high school. So that would be your population. Or maybe you want to know only about the sophomores in the high school. So the sophomores would be the population. So what group you are trying to study is considered the population. Now sometimes it's hard to actually ask every single person in that group. If your high school has a couple thousand students, that's going to be too hard to go survey. So they take what's called a sample. That's part of a population. Now picking your sample, you do have to pick that the correct way. If our entire population was the entire high school, but I only surveyed the sophomores, that's going to give me bias. That doesn't give me an example of everyone in the school, it's only the sophomores at the school. So the last kind is a random sample, and that means every element of a sample has the same chance of being chosen. So again, that example, if our entire population is the high school and we only surveyed the sophomores, that's not a good sample. But if we surveyed some students from freshman, some from sophomore, some from junior, some from senior, that's a better sample, and it's a random sample. So for example, Megan wants to find out how many students in her school like jazz music. So our population is the students at the school. So she decides, I'm going to survey the jazz band students. This is a bad group to survey for this question. This will skew the data. If she surveys the jazz band students, they're going to be biased. They're going to like jazz music. They chose to be in jazz band. You could also, maybe she makes an announcement over the intercom and says, anyone who wants to participate in my survey, come find me in room 215. This is actually also a bad way to take a survey. This is voluntary. If a survey is voluntary, the data will also be skewed. If you attach an incentive, if you say I'm going to pay money, then it's only the people who want to try and get some money. If it's just voluntary, then it's only people who are going to really like it or hate it. It's just not a great way to do a survey. She also could do a survey of every 5th student that walks into the cafeteria. So for this one, this can be a good method of collecting data. Kind of depends on the school. If the school is, for example, an open campus where people get to leave for lunch, this might not be a great survey. But if everyone has to go to the cafeteria to eat their lunch, this would be a good survey. So this one can be good or bad depending on the situation. It's a great one for like a store. If they want to know about their customers and they survey every 5th customer, that's a great one because it's people coming to buy stuff at their store. The last one would maybe to survey every homeroom and pick 2 students at random. This is a great way to collect data, covers every possible person in the school, and it's a random sample. Another example of a bad way to do the survey would be to survey all of the teachers. They're not even part of the group we want to be surveyed. So that's another example of a bad one. So this one can sometimes work depending on the situation, and then that one would work every time. Another thing that can affect your survey is how the questions are worded. So when you ask the question, you don't want to lead people into the opinion you want from the survey. If they use the wording like, "don't you think?" that's leading the person to say, well, you should be thinking the same way I am. Or they could say something like, "aren't you tired?" That's again leading the person in saying, you should not like what's about to come next. So the wording itself also has to be appropriate to make the survey a reliable survey. So that concludes our discussion on sampling methods.